Hello everyone, in this video I will be talking about the Soviet Union within the context of the Fallout universe. With that being said, let's get into it. The Soviet Union, as well as China, contested the American claim that their astronaut, Captain Carl Bell, was the first human in space aboard the Defiant 7 space capsule in May of 1961. By the 21st century, China was considered much more of a threat to the United States rather than the Soviet Union. However, since they were both communist countries, they were considered natural allies by the United States, and thus a threat. After the outbreak of the Sino-American War, the possibility of a joint nuclear strike by the Soviet Union and China, under the orders from Chairman Chiang, was considered as a viable option by American defense analysts. Russian human mutation experiments also inspired similar research efforts in the United States. By 2077, relations between the United States and the Soviet Union improved. It was still considered a potential enemy among the US military, and corporate propaganda vilified the Soviet Union as a land of forced labor camps, enforced austerity, and a source of spies trying to obtain national secrets. We learn this through terminal entries. Communist propaganda was also commonly broadcasted to the United States, and Russians were commonly bundled together with the Chinese as the Communist Red Menace. However, relations were close enough that a Soviet diplomat from the Soviet consulate in Los Angeles was accepted as a Vault Dweller of Vault 13. In the midst of the Sino-American War, and thus survived the Great War. This is the grandfather of one of the three options you have as a Vault Dweller in the original Fallout. A substantial amount of old AK-1112 assault rifles were also imported to the United States, remaining a common sight in New California. Soviet citizens were also present in American organized crime. Boston crime boss Eddie Winter employed Russian hitman Alexander Strankov, and Lev immigrated to the United States prior to the war to prey upon the American public in Fallout 76. In Fallout 3's Operation Anchorage DLC, General Zhao Wei's shock sword has a Soviet hammer and sickle, although this is a zoomed up version as it is incredibly hard to see. In Fallout 76, at the Camp McClinton Patriotism Training Building, there is a sign of a Soviet hammer and sickle being stabbed. A poster depicts a similar situation with a voting booth replacing the knife. The Kremlin and Red Square are briefly mentioned in the previously talked about terminal entries. Though I could not find a reliable image, according to the Fallout fandom wiki, the Chukchi Sea, Chukotka, and Gulf of Andmir are all mentioned as locations in a capital post loading screen in Fallout 3. In Fallout 76, the Rail Enthusiast exam at the Pioneer Scout Camp has a question that directly refers to the Trans-Siberian Railway. It goes as follows. Amazingly, we in America aren't the only ones that have a transcontinental railroad. Which famous railroad connects the Russian capital to the Far East? The Trans-Siberian Railway is the correct answer to the question. Now, that is all the lore I have for you, but I should probably mention why the Soviet Union isn't the main villains in the Fallout universe, or the ones that presumably dropped the bombs first, because we don't actually know, and instead it is China. This is because before the development of Fallout, Scott Campbell had a conversation with a Moscow game developer by the name of Oleg. During their conversation, he heard muffled bangs and the phone went quiet. When he asked what the noise was, he replied, "Oh, it was just the Russian mob firing their guns in the street." He then thought that the Soviet Union was not a viable threat for the United States anymore. So he picked the other communist country that represented the East, China. And that is everything we know about the Soviet Union within the Fallout universe. I hope you guys all enjoyed. I've been Sweet Tripod, and I'll see you in the next one.